Good evening. My name is Joel Dryden. Tonight, we'll take an in-depth look into the Calgary salsa scene. We'll start by examining the origins of the movement, tracing it back to its Afro-Cuban roots. Then, we'll meet some of the interesting characters who make up Calgary's salsa scene. My partners on this project are fellow Mount Royal University students Michelle Thomas and Michael Chan, working under the direction of Terry Field. Please enjoy Salsa Eh? Salsa. It's flashy, quick, dazzling. Dancers flip and spin and twirl and thrill spectators. The music is all-encompassing and inclusive, utilizing congas, pianos, flutes, trombones, bongos. It's a dance and musical movement that is comprised of a diverse group of people, and one that has exploded and spread and serves to define a cultural experience for people all across the world. As a term, salsa originated in New York around 1970, but the origins of the movement are traceable to Cuba.
Salsa, blues, jazz, all those stuff, like they're coming from Africa. Africa have a lot of rhythm, a lot of, energy, all those stuff coming from Cuba, that's Africa right there.
Slowly, the new percussion-based, rhythm-centered music brought these musicians income and recognition, and became popular with widespread radio broadcast in 1922. Hearing this music brought hope to the nearly 30 million Africans who were brought to Cuba to serve as slaves, and an early form of salsa dance now turned Afro-Cuban developed out of the expression of those who embraced the music. 53rd Street and Broadway Corner, New York City, 1940. A Rexall drugstore shared vacancy with what would serve as the birthplace of a global musical movement. The Palladium Ballroom was a struggling dance hall with a racially restrictive policy and inadequate funding. Interest in Latin music had begun to spread across the United States, with Cuban and Puerto Rican citizens beginning to settle in the country. New York was becoming the center of Cuban dance music.
But at the time, they took a lot of that influence of the son, especially, and the mambo, and then mixed with plena and some other kind of music. They started to create something, one kind of style for everything.
The Palladium, falling into decline, made a bold move to become the heart of this movement, hosting weekly Latin nights. The move was an incredible success. The Palladium fostered some of the biggest stars in Latin culture, including the Big Three: Tito Puente, Tito Rodriguez, and Machito, featuring Mario Baza. Soon, the Mambo movement spread across America and became wildly popular, and the Palladium declared itself the Temple of Mambo. For the next 3 decades, the Latin musical movement spread across America, incorporating many different styles: the Cuban son, the guaracha, the cha-cha-cha. The musical styles and varied instrumentation were broad, undefinable. A new word emerged to describe the music, one that, in Spanish, translated as sauce.
Salsa, like the food, like the sauce, is actually made of different stuff, just chopped together and put it so that you can eat, and that's how they thought about it.
The new movement had a name: salsa. And it didn't just stay in New York. It spread. It didn't take long for Calgary, Alberta, to catch the fever.
Gracias. Well, the first time, because what I do is music. I'm percussionist, and when I came in the first time, the Latin scene was kind of, you know, it was no too big. So I was almost start crying, but after that was the time, and I start playing different music, right, different type of music, and after I start playing in a salsa band, cumbia, and merengue band, like a Latin band. Yeah, that was like a long time, like 8 years, a little bit.
Luis has been playing with a variety of bands in Calgary for over 8 years. Salsa has continued to develop across the world to incorporate all kinds of instruments and people, but Luis's drums provide the beats that help dancers count their steps when they enter a hall. Tulu, Max Posadas, and Maria Perez. 3 people who are deeply involved in the salsa community in Calgary. Though their stories and their backgrounds could not be more different, they all have something in common. Each of them is defined in their own way by salsa, this dance and musical experience that serves to bring people together, a universal language. In the midst of a frigid Canadian winter is a dance hall. The studio owner of the Ballroom and Country might not be who you'd expect running this hall. Tulu, a Vietnamese refugee who immigrated to Canada, arrived in the country and spoke very little English. Tulu could not find work, and connecting with people was even more difficult.
When we're looking for the job, we cannot speak English. Even cleaning in downtown, no one hiring, even at the airport, because they look at us, cannot speak English, no one give us the job. How bad it is. It was hopeless when we came.
Tulu, shy and nervous, found connecting with people through English difficult, so he tried to use a different language.
When I came to Canada, I was homesick, and I found I cannot know the culture, and I didn't speak English well, and I found the best way for me to do it, get out of the house and meet people and learn to dance. That's how I start. Then later on, I found it could be turned to a business.
Tulu opened the Ballroom and Country Dance Studio, and he's been operating it 7 days a week ever since, providing a place for the salsa community to come together.
I'm very nervous because in my country, we're not religion, but it's very conservative. We don't stand close to the girl. I'm very nervous. Okay, that's why make me become a better teacher. I understand how people feel because I've been there. So I know all the truth. People teach me to overcome the nervous, shy, and how to lead the woman easy. That's why it's helping me become a good teacher.
Tulu's dance studio offers daily lessons to the salsa community. One person who is part of Calgary's salsa community is Max Posadas. Max, born and raised in Mexico, moved to Calgary because something kept bringing him back.
I came here to Calgary a year before I actually moved because of a salsa congress. So in that salsa congress, I met a girl who now is my wife. The first thing I actually, or one of the most interesting things about her, it was the way she was dancing, really, for me, because she's, you know, Canadian with big blue eyes. So that was my first thing, physically. But then later, when I saw her on the dance floor, to me, she had the flavor and the movements of a Latin person. So kind of like surprised me, right? So at the beginning it was like, boom, oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting. That was probably my big thing, or her. There was a chemistry for sure, yes. I don't know, you probably can ask her, but I think we both felt it, like something special when we were dancing. And you know, because besides the fact that you are actually doing movements and you can follow and lead, there's something special when you're dancing and you can see that the chemistry is there, right? Like everything's matching, everything's actually working. Not just the movements, something else special, I would say.
Although Max spends much of his free time teaching, it doesn't seem like work to him.
You know, at the beginning of, for me, one thing is that salsa it's just a hobby, really. Even though I teach and we have teams and all this stuff, I still see it as my hobby and something that I really enjoy, so it's not my job.
Coming up, the story of Maria Perez, who found her place in her culture through salsa. Max is a big part of a Latin culture that is thriving in Calgary. Coming to Canada meant that these people could seek a better life while still maintaining their heritage. The food, the singing, the personality, it all defines them. But Maria Perez, born to a Cuban dad and a Peruvian mom, never quite connected with that culture.
At the beginning, I think I didn't want to be involved in it at all because I felt like it was forced. You know, my parents were always saying, you know, you have to learn the culture or say it back to me in Spanish. And, you know, I always didn't, like, I never understood why I needed to do that when all my friends at school were speaking English. It didn't make sense to me. But then when I realized I had some Hispanic friends in school, there was like 4 of them. And they were talking amongst each other. I was like, cool, they have a language, like they can talk to each other. And so I slowly started getting curious because I would see my mom watching soap operas and they were actually really good. So I started watching with her. I think I was probably like 16 or 17. And I knew for my whole life, I knew the music because my dad would always blast it on our road trips when we went to anywhere. And the steering wheel was his bongos. Like he would always like play the steering wheel with it, and we thought it was so annoying, but it's all I would hear, and the music was catchy. Like anyone from any culture can't say that Latin music isn't catchy, like it is.
Bueno, siempre nosotros hablábamos, cuando eran chiquitos siempre yo le hablaba de Cuba, mi esposa, bueno, Jenny le hablaba de Perú y de la música y siempre le hablábamos, siempre poníamos música latina en la casa. Y inclusive María cuando una vez me dice, yo quiero aprender a bailar. Entonces, nunca me olvidaré de eso. Me emociono un poquito.
And eventually we were at a party once and my dad just kind of grabbed me and put me on his feet and he said, just follow my lead. And so I started dancing and I could hear it. And I was like, I want to learn more of this.
Y entonces ella me dijo, ok. Yo me acuerdo que le dije, bueno, hagamos así asado. Y entonces ella, enseguida yo vi que ella tenía el rhythm, como dice. Oh, tiene el rhythm. Y hicimos algunos pasillitos ahí, algunas movidas, y yo vi, oh, bien. Y de ahí, bueno, pues entonces ella siguió, se metió en la música, y ahora es lo que es. Gracias a Dios por eso, porque ella es muy feliz con su baile, y nosotros siempre la vamos a apoyar. Siempre la vamos a apoyar porque es bonito, es hermoso.
So that slowly, as I got older, I did want to become more involved. Like personally, I wanted to become more involved. It wasn't something that was obligated. But again, that came with kind of getting out there on my own and seeing what the culture was and trying to understand it. But I had to be by myself. I had to do it by myself. I think the moment I finally felt like I was part of the Latin community was when I first started learning how to dance. And I think the first time I went to like a Latin festival, and there was all these people with their flags and stuff. Mind you, I had like 3 because it's like Canadian, Cuban, Peruvian, but it still felt like, you know, I was part of this culture. So yeah. My first thoughts about that were, I don't know, that I finally kind of fit into something. I fit into, I don't know, I think I always wanted to connect with my parents somehow, but because of the language barrier and the culture thing that I didn't understand, it wasn't until I got older and I started researching the culture that I was able to finally connect with my parents, you know, and understand where I came from and the roots and all that stuff, and learning the music. And yeah, it was fun. It's funny talking about what I felt when I started doing that, but I think I feel like any of those other kids that kind of feel, especially after high school, you're lost in the world, you don't really know where to go, and then you find something that, like, it's like all the stars align and you know exactly what you're supposed to do and how you're supposed to be doing it. And I think I was lucky in that case, because it felt just like when I first kind of started understanding my culture, and that first time at the festival, that like finding salsa to me was the first time at the festival of life. Like I was like, wow, okay, this is me. Like this is where I fit in, and that's what I understand. And so yeah, it felt like it filled me, like a void of some sort. But yeah, I guess first what it showed me about my heritage is how awesome it is, because I didn't really think much of it until I started learning the music. Because once you learn the music and you try to learn the dance, you have to dig deep and you have to do the history, and you're like, wow, this is where I came from. This is so cool. And then you start to see where it is all over the world. And yeah, as part of knowing that that's part of your heritage, like that's like, you know, when Clark Kent discovered he was like Superman. Like I think it's pretty awesome. Like it's everywhere. And yeah, what it means to me, salsa to me is like my bread and butter. Like that's everything. Like I think that you couldn't really describe me without throwing that in there. Like it has to be it's part of my life. Like it's all I really have.
Coming up, we'll meet the Salsa World Champions and introduce you to some salsa steps that you can do at home from more salsa instructor Max Posadas. Back at Tulu's dance hall, the Salsa World Champions David Cepeda and Paulina Posadas are making a stop in Calgary. They're teaching New York-style salsa and bachata.
Attractive about salsa is the connection with the partner. All the, you know, the ballroom, we say ballroom, I don't know exactly what we say, the bailes de salon that are with couple. I love just the connection that it's the guy is leading you, the girl has to follow, and it's not one person. You have to be connected with somebody else, and that makes it so important for me. So I guess it's about the Latin style.
For me, it's what you can mix, like what you can put into salsa. It's not just like specific dancing. It gives you the freedom to add like any kind of style. Like if you want to add, like for example, a little bit of hip hop moves, you have the freedom to do it. So that makes it attractive for me because you know, my background is different dances, so it was not just like learning one way and do it that way. It was like I can do my own thing too into salsa, so it makes it good for me. Yeah. You know, it's a lot of satisfaction for us to be champions now, but like she said, it took us like a lot of hard work, you know, like a lot of things. The training, it was just you know, like salsa, you also, when you go into the competition level, you gotta train in different styles, you know, like you gotta do gymnastics, you gotta train as much as you can to be able to have everything, and it just stay in one, you know, one thing. And well, I mean, like to be champion, it's great, you know, because it's your prize of all the work that you did.
So it's very challenging, and you just want to keep going. It's not only one time, just want to keep in the same title. So it's a lot of work, and it's a very gratifying for me. Yeah.
Now, we'll take a break so you can try out some salsa steps at home, thanks to more salsa instructor Max Posadas. We'll start with a warm-up.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, big to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5.
Now, we'll get into the steps.
6, 7, 2, 3. Basic again. 2, 3, 6, 7, 2, 3.
Take your time and follow Max's count. Try to match your body with your
1, 2,
steps.
3, 6, 7, 2, 3. Right turn. 5, 6, 7.
Salsa, like the sauce, is made up of lots of different parts. Tonight, at the Ballroom and Country Dance Hall, salsa has brought together a lot of different people.
The salsa is very much a mixture of things, and they take different dance genres and they mix it up, and so it makes sense that so many different cultures from varying backgrounds would come together with something like salsa and to enjoy something so diverse. So I think salsa innately is diversity, and so I think it's reflected from, you know, you see everyone from different backgrounds if you go to a salsa club.
Like, I'm coming from Russia, so we were not really familiar with any Latin culture or any Latin dances. So yeah, I just walked in and I heard the music and I was like, it's totally cool.
Salsa brings happiness. Like, it's very happy, it's very powerful, like full of energy. So I think I want to just start dancing salsa, just start enjoying a lot, and I think it's so nice.
Because it is so personal, it is so unique, it is specific to them. So once you're free to express that, I mean, you have that outlet of that energy, how can you not feel confident about that?
The passion on the dance floor, the sweat in the room, the feeling unlike any other. Here is found a culture comprised of many cultures. Salsa is alive in these dance halls. The spirit of dance and music uniting a community who step together to the beat of a language with no words. This is Salsa Eh.
La gente se la pasa criticando, de la vida mía hablando, y no dicen la verdad. Pero me mira la mentira, se descubre con el tiempo.
We hope you have a feel for the Calgary dance community and a better sense of what salsa is. Please stay tuned for other documentaries produced by Mount Royal University students. Good night.